just saw this group of teenagers like deliberately making marks and scratch marks with their Lime scooters, like just all around.
Several witnesses confronted the group and called police.
We're not going to sit by as we watch people deliberately commit a hate crime, like right in the middle of downtown.
After looking at security footage, officers arrested 3 teenagers. 2 are minors, and 1 is 19-year-old Ruslan Turco.
You are charged with 1 count malicious mischief.
Turco had his first appearance in court this afternoon. The judge released him under the condition he doesn't go near the crosswalk or the other teenagers. Prosecutors, though, had asked the judge to set a $15,000 bond since that's how much it costs to repaint the mural.
The community really came together to raise the money for them to be able to do it before the parade on Saturday.
Now this vandalism just hours after that repaint and only a few weeks after someone else set fire to the mural.
It sucks to be reminded in moments like this that there are still people out there that, have hate in their hearts for other people, so yeah.
But Kaylee wants everyone to know the love outweighs the hate here on Howard and through the entire city.
We've all heard the phrase, making mountains out of molehills. And what better example of this than the recent hullabaloo around skid marks on a pride flag mural? While it's true that there are people out there actually defacing flags, it should be noted that 1, that's not illegal, and in fact, it's a protected right a la freedom of expression to do so, even to the American flag, and 2, marks on the ground are unavoidable. Skid marks occur accidentally, and it's quite frankly reaching to argue that anyone who happens to stain the rainbow painted in a busy area is doing it out of hatred towards the LGBT community. Assuming that everyone around you is acting against you, that there is no benevolent explanation for their behavior, is a form of cognitive distortion, wherein a person perceives reality inaccurately due to being exaggerated or irrational. Your mother doesn't use your pronouns right? It's because she hates you. Your coworkers don't want to share a dressing room with you? It's because they're bigots who go on anti-trans hate marches on the weekend. The lesbian you've been into says she still won't go out with you even after you transition? Well, surely it's because she thinks you're subhuman and is choosing not to be attracted to your gender out of spite. The stubbornness and believing that everyone who disagrees with you or simply doesn't agree with you on everything or with enough conviction is actually hiding hatred against you is an insane perspective to live by. For one, it's self-centered to think that you, as an individual, take up that much of another person's brain power. The children who drove over that mural were likely thinking about dinner or not falling over their scooters. They were not thinking, God smite the gays. Women who don't want to share a changing room or bathroom with a trans-identified male, they're thinking of their own safety and comfort, not giggling with glee about exclusion.
I had a neighbor confront me for using the women's restroom. I lived here for 4.5 years. Everyone should know that I'm a trans woman. I've always been known as Kaylee. I've always used she, her pronoun. I've been having some stomach issues because of Trulicity, and I'd use a bathroom real quick, and they're single-use bathrooms, and it's the only place that I feel safe using the women's bathroom. Well, I got done and got out, and this neighbor was talking to another neighbor and started pointing out the sign. I knew exactly what she was talking about because there's a big old woman sign. And I'm like, is there a problem? She's like, yeah, you're using the woman's restroom. You're a man. And I said, I'm a trans woman. She's like, no, you're a man. And she kept saying that over and over. And she kept saying, you're not a she, you're a he. You shouldn't be using it. You were born a man. And just over and over. And honestly, I just lost it. And just started screaming and swearing. I just couldn't handle it. This is my home. This is my safe place. I should be able to use the restroom. The apartment manager knows I'm trans. Everyone knows my name is Kaylee. And then my group of friends, I thought my friends were all starting to yell at me saying I escalated and because she had 2 kids. I didn't even see the kids. They were there and I just lost it. Fight, flight, or freeze, and I fought. You don't know what it's like to be a trans person. And then my one friend started yelling at me, and none of them stood up for them. They blamed me that I was the one that was at fault. When none of them stood up to me when this person kept calling me he, she, he, man, like triggering and awful. Like, I deal with enough on here. Like, my apartment should be a safe place. There's nothing safe for a trans person. There is nothing safe for a trans person. This is the life. And it fucking sucks. And even when you have your friends who don't have your back. And then my one friend, Annette, just started screaming at me. And I'm like, start screaming back at her. I'm done. These are fair weather friends. These are not the friends that I need, want, and deserve. And if I can't find it here, I will find it elsewhere. So, I don't know. I'm so fucking triggered and feeling so awful. Like, I just want to die. It fucking sucks. Here's what the men's and women's groups, so they're single-use bathrooms. So you can see there's the men's, here's the women's.
When you stop viewing everyone as being either your ally or enemy and more clearly understand that the world is largely indifferent to you as an individual, then it becomes a lot easier to understand the perspective of others. Instead of viewing the women against pornography as wanting to control your sexuality or hating your ability to orgasm, you should recognize that their perspective stems from the collective experiences of women who've participated in pornography and the collective harm of porn use. It is only directed at you as an individual inasmuch as everything is political. Your personal story of how you decided to be into tentacle porn or CNC is irrelevant.
There's a tremendous amount of this prettification of the actual, what people actually watch, and there are millions and millions and millions. You know, people talked about, well, there's feminist porn or there's anarchist porn, and you just have to say this is a tiny sliver of what literally like billions of people watch. I mean, the porn sites get more internet visits than LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Netflix combined. Like, this is billions of people. The average age of young people watching porn, encountering porn, is by 13 is the average age when they actually first encounter this. This is generations of people literally being twisted and broken in what they think intimacy is they think it's violence, they think it's degradation and abuse. So this is the actual reality, and then it does exist on a global scale, like Luna said. And the thing that's striking in all of this is how much people came at the question from me out. This was her choice. This is what I like. And you just have to say, like, first of all, your choices are not like they just, came out of nowhere. You are shaped by this system where the half of humanity that's female is looked at as an object to be fucked, to be abused, and to be owned. So your desires are shaped by that, and you don't get to, and your personal choice, or even what you are into or what turns you on, is intermeshed in that global degradation of women, whether you choose that individually or not. And you just have to say that the half of humanity that's female is more important than what turns you on.
Same goes for makeup use, which is often defended as being a personal choice or just personal expression. The women who argue against its use are not taking into account your personal story, but the effect makeup has on women as a class. The you in question is not specific. If those who were intent on reading every action in bad faith kept it to themselves, then that would be one thing, an annoying thing to be certain, but one contained primarily to their own circles. However, over the past decade, those who have this tendency have gained platforms and followers, and have been able to spin their own fears and self-importance into something far bigger than themselves. So perhaps a better saying is crying wolf. As one of those stories that most children are warned of at a young age, we should all be familiar with its lesson. No one believes a liar, even if they are telling the truth. Claims of being at risk of violence, and most insultingly of genocide, are common from trans rights activists and allies, many of whom are middle class, white, and heterosexual.
This claim that trans people are in some kind of stage of genocide is one of the most disrespectful claims that I've ever heard on this app, so I'm about to debunk it. First of all, these stages can happen in any order, so I don't know where y'all are getting you're on stage 7. You have absolutely no proof that they are planning this. Number 1, classification, you've divided yourselves. You haven't been forced to wear any symbols, in fact, you've given yourselves a symbol. In the United States, no one stops you from going in any businesses or sitting on park benches. Sure, some people don't like you, but you can't claim that's dehumanization, because, in fact, the media has propped y'all up. They're not excluding you, they're putting you on a pedestal. No one's dragging you out of your homes and putting you into camps. No one's denying you anything because of your identity. To say these things are happening to trans people is disrespectful to Jewish people. Many of these bills in question are protecting minors, and suicide is not the same.
I have lived in Cambodia on and off for the past 2 years and have returned most recently to work for a nonprofit. I love living here because of the privilege I am afforded. As an American, the meager savings I have are enough to live comfortably. I'm not at risk of violence any more than any woman is. I have job opportunities aplenty because I speak English and come from the States. I am achingly aware of the privilege I hold and of why Cambodia trails behind Thailand and Vietnam in terms of development. The Khmer Rouge killed between 1.5 to 3 million people here. They targeted the well-educated and well-to-do first. Many more died of starvation during communist rule. Anyone who has studied an actual genocide or has visited a place where it occurred or spoken to those still reeling from the effects of one would know that there is no trans genocide.
Let's talk about the Cambodian genocide of the late 1970s. This tragic event was led by the Khmer Rouge, a communist party led by Pol Pot. This communist party came into power after winning the civil war that took place prior to 1975. The goal of the Khmer Rouge was to create a society that was heavily based on agriculture and killing off any perceived intellectuals. Upon taking power in Cambodia, they went ahead and removed everyone from the urban cities and put them into rural sites for mass farming. These labor camps were brutal and often harsh, as many people died from exhaustion, starvation, or even killing. Now, the communist Khmer Rouge, of course, would kill anyone who seemed smart, who was an intellect, who was a scholar, people such as Buddhists and Christians. Not only that, but people who contributed to the Cambodian culture as far as arts and music goes, they were also killed off as well. In the end of it all, about 1.7 million Cambodians perished, which was a quarter of the population at the time. Now, the Khmer Rouge reign came to an end in 1979 when the Vietnamese Communist Party invaded because of cross-conflict border. In the end of it all, a lot of Cambodian culture and scholars perished away at the hands of the Communist Party. Many communist leaders went unaccounted for just because they were able to get away. The lack of unaccountability in a third world country made it easier for them to escape or lay low. In the end, only the marks of the survivors and words and stories are what keeps those times alive and the Cambodian culture to thrive further from rock bottom. That is all. See you in the next one.
Gay prostitutes in South America are at high risk of murder and abuse. The average trans-identified person is not. There is no reason to seek asylum in Germany. There is no reason to divert Pride Month, which has already been diluted by corporate takeover and the inclusion of any and everyone who deems themselves queer, to focus on fearfulness. There is no trans genocide.
This is for all my fellow trans people, because it has been hard as fuck to be trans this week. Even if they extinguish every single trans person on the face of the earth right now, another one will be born tomorrow. And I keep thinking about that, because in a world where we didn't have enough elders and we didn't have enough examples and we didn't have trans-positive media, we don't live in a trans-positive society, we still figured out who we were. That's a famous Laverne Cox quote. I think she said that. At some point she was like, I still became trans and I didn't have examples. That will happen tomorrow. Somebody will be born by the time this video is done and they will grow up and realize they are transgender, because that is how powerful and how normal and common it is to be trans, and how beautiful and how much a part of nature and a part of life we are. That is how deeply embedded into this fucking earth our identities are. Don't forget that.
Right now, many people are likely convinced that there is some danger in identifying as trans. Mainstream news coverage does well at presenting any disagreement as stemming from bigotry, and shies away from portraying the less than stellar representations of the trans community. And even when they do, no true trans woman would ever take advantage of trans acceptance, right? This isn't going to last. It never does. Just as lobotomies were sold as humane treatments for a myriad of issues and are now looked down upon as a crazed lapse of scientific judgment, so too will this period be observed with distant remorse. We remember the Satanic Panic not as a period of pride, but of regret. And hopefully, the same will be said about this movement in the not-so-distant future. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I really hate how I've talked about the trans genocide thing many, many times at this point. And one of the reasons why it annoys me so much is one of the first things I did when I came here was visit the killing fields. And I started reading, researching, and learning about what happened. And from that, I started learning more about other wars and other genocides, because I feel like in a lot of cases we know these things happen, but we don't linger on them. It's uncomfortable, especially to people who never had to experience or have had to deal with the impact of these things. So then I look at these claims of we're being genocided, not even just being targeted, we're being genocided. And I'm offended on behalf of people who have experienced this awful, awful thing. And I find it astounding that anyone in the States, in the Western world, who has not been related to an actual genocide thinks that they have the right to claim this. Even in the US and in Canada, we have had a genocide against First Nation and Native American people. That's a legitimate thing that happened. What we have right now is some people are mean to you and you don't like it, or they don't want to go along with what you say and you consider that genocide. We shouldn't let children have life-altering hormones, and that's what you call genocide. It's frustrating. And then you see these things like there's skid marks on a pride flag you painted on the ground. You're reaching so much to have some excuse to be offended. And why? Why is it so fun to you to feel victimized and offended? What's so fun about being a victim? And the thing is, I'd argue that most people who have been victimized in some way or another or been oppressed don't want to be oppressed. In the same way that I've heard so many queer people say that they don't want to assimilate. Well, you've never had to consider being ostracized or being outside. You chose this. You chose to be this way to stand out on purpose. Someone who didn't have a choice is not going to be reaching for ways to be set aside as different. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.